$600 per XRP. If that really is the case and XRP is used for cross-border international transactions, then that would be a big deal. The XRP Spot ETF is just about to be approved. Is that really the case? What the IPO of Ripple is all about and how far along that process is, what Russia has to do with XRP, and also who has been very critical of the SEC, it's all in the video now. We'll see each other after the intro. Oh, I almost forgot. The drawing for the last Advent calendar door, we have that today as well. And at this point, a huge thank you. We have successfully hit 8,000 subscribers. And now the next goal, of course. And I've come up with something really special for that. So anyone who's watching the videos right now and hasn't subscribed yet, feel free to hit that subscribe button and help boost the channel a bit more. And if you like the video as such, feel free to leave a like. It helps boost the algorithm. Among the past videos, there were a lot of views, but also a lot of comments where discussions took place and often speculation was made, usually more in line with what's a fact. And now let's take a look at whether all of this is really a fact. So for example, a comment about Turkey. Turkey, Heidi Wood, Erdogan has already signed, use XRP in some form. All right, so whoever wrote that comment, or if anyone else has more information, feel free to send it in the comments, because unfortunately I couldn't find anything on that. So besides the fact that Turkey has even tightened its crypto laws, and at this point we were just discussing MiCA, which was quite a hot topic yesterday. How can this be, and what's going on with the EU? So to be fair, I have to say I never thought I would say this, but MiCA actually seems quite reasonable in comparison. So according to the new laws, it's also a lot about these KYC rules and about transactions over 425, where you basically have to prove the identity of the source. And anyone who thinks at this point 2021 doesn't matter to me, I'm not doing it, well, they're facing up to 25 years in prison. Yeah, welcome to Turkey. Well, they face up to 25 years in prison. Yes, welcome to Turkey. So that's something you can do. But to wrap it all up, what does this have to do with XRP? Nothing at all, because I couldn't find anything about any cooperation or anything like that. What I could find, however, is quite interesting, and that's the topic of Russia and XRP. Now, it's also questionable how these media outlets really conduct their research based on facts, or if it's more about just getting the keyword XRP into the media. So I want to give you this as a tip, because as we've all noticed, Vladimir Putin has talked about Bitcoin more frequently now, especially in 2021, to support it and to bypass certain sanctions. Now we all know Russia is a member of BRICS, and there's already a heated discussion about whether Bitcoin could possibly be the corresponding reserve currency. It would also generally make sense, because let's assume that BRICS wants to have a currency that is in some way decoupled from the dollar. So first of all, no dependency. Secondly, ideally addressing the weaknesses. Well, let's assume they launch their own currency and back it, for example, with gold. Now, China, Russia, and many other countries are part of this cooperation, let's call it that, but somehow they are still somewhat enemies, or at least competitors. Well, now all the gold is in China. And I don't think Russia finds that very cool, because then all the reserves are basically in one country. Could that be the corresponding alternative? Could be. Doesn't have to be. Anyway, what I want to question a bit here, just to be open, is whether XRP is really being used. Why XRP? I mean, Ripple, the company behind it, is a bit, well, let's not call it decentralized. Let's say it's all a bit centralized and has a certain closeness to the US government, so on and so forth. I can hardly imagine that the Russians would say, yeah, I'll take XRP. If that were really the case, and it's true that XRP is being used for cross-border international transactions, that would be quite a big deal. So clearly there would be an application there. Whether that's really the case, I doubt it. So you can definitely read the article here, but I believe more strongly now that they just like to use keywords rather than it being really factual. My personal opinion, and if you have a different one, feel free to write it in the comments, or of course, if you have other information. Of course, I also want to briefly talk about the topic of RLUSD because there is a notable person involved, and we're talking about Georgios Vlachos, who is a co-founder of the open source interoperability platform, Xella. Now, some of you might be wondering, whoa, what is this good man doing? Well, interoperability, as the name suggests, is about multiple blockchains being able to interact with each other, and he is working on the XRP ledger to connect 69 other blockchains with this EVM chain. So, the guy should definitely have some insight, and he also noted that, hey, the stablecoin could generate a lot of interest, especially regarding Mika, by the way. I don't think I've linked yesterday's video yet, so feel free to click here. Definitely regarding Mika, because the RLUSD is completely certified, authenticated, whatever you want to call it. In any case, it can be used there without any problems, which is of course interesting for the European market. And now XRP comes into play again, because you need XRP for the gas fees, transactions with RLUSD. I heard somewhere else that there is even a burning mechanism attached to it. So that means the XRPs are also deflationary because of that. That could definitely be exciting in the long run. We're not talking about a short-term thing here, but in the long run, this could be something. Another piece of news I want to address in the comments is about the IPO, because there were wild predictions saying, hey folks, since the Ripple IPO is just around the corner, XRP is going to explode. Yes, it really is. So I did a bit of digging and found out that this IPO has been in the works for a while, because here is, for example, an article from the end of May 2022. Also here, what a surprise, this XRP lawsuit with the SEC is somehow in the way again. And as we all know, it hasn't been resolved to this day. The deadline is January 15th of next year. We'll see what actually happens. Will a claim come or will it not come? Many people say the framework is changed now, nothing is going to happen. We all know Gary Gensler. I wouldn't be surprised if he presses the button on January 14th and submits. January, still presses the button and submits the thing. So then on the 20th, to say, all right, folks, alibi daisy, I'm out. So who knows? You can't say anything more specific about it. I was able to find a more recent article, at least from the end of August this year. Well, there's also a lot of wild speculation about when this IPO might happen. I personally believe that once this SEC lawsuit is finally dropped, it could really trigger a chain reaction. So let's be realistic, because then the hype would naturally be back. So they're predicting around $600 here. Important for the stock, so I'm not talking about the XRP price here. So don't go wild speculating and saying, Daniel said $600 per XRP. No, we're talking about the Ripple stock, but all in all, this could definitely cause some movement. And now let's take a look at the ETF approval, which is becoming more and more likely and possibly happen as early as the beginning of next year. Who knows? Let's take a closer look at the article. And that's quite interesting because they took a few parameters here. Why is that quite realistic? Basically, there are two reasons. So one reason is that there are more and more asset managers who have declared that they want to bring a spot ETF. So here we have, for example, Wisdom Tree. I think 21 shares were the first. Bitwise is involved. By the way, for those wondering, BlackRock is not involved at all. So they've already cleared up the rumors and made it very clear we're out of the NR. First of all, let's focus on Bitcoin and Ethereum. That makes a lot of sense. So there should also be this hybrid form coming out, a combined ETF of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But for now, it's perfectly fine that they're out of the race. One should also say at this point that there are two different approaches here. So on one hand, we have the institutional investors who hopefully will jump on such an ETF. Well, we can see it with Ethereum. It took a bit of time to get going, and it's still not really rolling smoothly yet. However, on the other hand, we have a lot of hype, and that could lead to the retail investors saying, yes, and now even more so, I'm going all in. I'm diving in completely if this spot ETF is out there alone. That could then drive the price up just based on the news alone, but it doesn't have to. You might be asking yourself, well, that's great. But wait, there's one more point we might want to add. And surprise, it's about Gary Gensler. In the meantime, we have the successor Paul Atkins. Because now it gets interesting, Gary Gensler, who hasn't been as crypto-friendly as some might have noticed, has completely turned things around with Paul Atkins. And that also leads many to say, wait a minute, if that guy is in power, things could move faster again. But we also need to first work through this whole issue of the judicial process. But there's another reason, and by the way, it's the same reason why the Solana ETF didn't come or can't come so easily. Many people think, yeah, okay, spot ETF, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, or XRP, it's all pretty much the same, right? No, it's not, because there's a significant difference. Most people don't even know that there has been a Bitcoin ETF all along, long before the approval this year. However, that was a futures ETF, not a spot ETF. And that's the big point, because Solana doesn't have a single ETF yet, not even a futures ETF. That would have been the first in line, and Ripple hasn't done that yet either. That's why people always say that it's very difficult for an ETF to come out straight away. We don't know, but what I would like to say again at this point is that, of course, once the verdict has been announced, or in the best case scenario, the SEC does nothing at all until January 15th. That will, of course, mean that a spot ETF could possibly come sooner. Who knows? But that will definitely be the first milestone. So if you have a different opinion, feel free to write it in the comments, but I definitely think so. So now let's get directly to the sharp criticism of, by the way, the analyst who has basically set a precedent. What do we want to get out of this? So, Charles Gasparino, you might know him, works for the New York Times, or he also writes for that, is a columnist, and has expressed some critical views on the matter. Why? It was about this disclosure, and curiously enough, for retail investors, it doesn't seem to be that important, but for institutional investors, it was considered to be lacking. So that's at least his statement. Feel free to check out the entire interview. It runs for 1 hour and 15 minutes, so I'll give you the short version now. And he then spoke up about it and said, hey folks, I see a significant disadvantage for retail investors, meaning the smaller investors. And he might not be entirely wrong about that. So we'll have to wait and see what will actually happen. So how this lawsuit turns out, whether it just flows out like that, or if it goes through differently. So at this point, by the way, feel free to share your opinion in the comments. I think that was the third or fourth call. I think we can discuss a lot and have plenty to talk about. But I'm really curious, do you think the SEC will file an appeal, or do you think they'll just let it go and then it's just over and done with and no one will talk about it anymore? Who knows? We'll see what happens. What we're definitely going to do now is move on to the drawing, and as if we hadn't already talked about it directly, well, yesterday it generated a lot of discussion, a ton of clicks, and a lot of comments. By the way, a big thank you for all the congratulations on surpassing the 8,000 mark. The topic of Mika is definitely hot. It's very hot, and that will be the case starting the day after tomorrow, and it feels like no one really knows what's going on. But okay, we'll see. We're just going to copy this out and draw the lucky winner, and at this point, congratulations, thanks for the video. It would be cool if you could provide more information about the card from the last video. Okay, at this point, feel free to respond again. I don't know which card you're referring to or from which video. I don't think it's the last video, but maybe I missed something. So feel free to write about it in the comments. And otherwise, how you won is pretty simple. Message me on Telegram. So there's the Uptrend group where everyone can write. I'm pretty active there too. You can also pull my username so you don't end up with some fake account or something like that. And then there's Uptrend Trading. What is that? There are hot coin tips and they are cooked to perfection, basically. Then there are also all the market news, especially regarding Bitcoin, because all the other currencies are somehow linked to it, and there are also some bonuses that I always negotiate with various exchanges or projects. So yeah, if you're not already part of it, we have over 200 people, so check out the description, just click on it and you can join for free. Yes, and that's how you can win. And at this point, I have to say the advent calendar is over. So I'm really curious now. Maybe the comments will drop off and you only commented to win. I hope not. I hope it's valuable for you. And by the way, since we're on the topic of value, I can give you the tip to definitely check out this video. Super exciting, not just meant for beginners, but I pulled out the crystal ball and made my predictions for next year. So in that sense, we'll see each other tomorrow in the next video. Until then, all the best. Oh, 21.